All right, what's going on YouTube? This is Boxingwave, and we are back with another fight breakdown. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Also, smash the like button if you enjoyed the content. So this weekend we have a lot of fights, and as I said in previous videos, I'm going to be covering everything this weekend. Anything that's going to be broadcasted. Still not sure about the Alto Wallin fight, but everything else I'm going to be covering this Saturday. So I will be here for the Showtime pay-per-view between Canelo and Jamel Charlo. And I will be covering this fight as well between Jordan Thompson and Jai Opetaia. Okay? So make sure you're here on Saturday. Again, subscribe to the channel so you'll get the notification when I go live. All right, let's talk about this fight. This is going to be a quick prediction video because there's not much depth really to go into when it comes to this fight. Because both of these guys are still, especially, Jordan Thompson specifically doesn't have that much experience. You know what I mean? So it's kind of a pick'em fight here, and even though Jai Opetaia is now the champion, he's going to be defending his IBF cruiserweight title that he just won in his last fight. He hasn't defended it yet, and he hasn't fought in over a year because he actually broke his jaw against Maris Briedis in that fight there. So, as far as the odds and everything, Jai is a pretty healthy favorite to win this fight, So let's talk about the fighters. Now, Jordan Thompson, he's 6'6" at cruiserweight, which is crazy. He's a very big dude. I just saw photos of the face-off that they had. And you see that Jordan is not just taller, but he's clearly a much bigger fighter than Jai Opetaia. I mean, he's about 4 inches taller. I couldn't find anything that showed his actual reach and his arm length. But I would just have to assume that he's a lengthier fighter. You know what I mean? I mean, just based on how he looks against all the other opponents he's faced up to this point, he's not only much taller, but he's much longer. You know what I'm saying? Especially when he's fighting and keeping distance away from his opponents. All right. He's 15. His record is 15 wins with 12 knockouts, no losses, no draws. Okay. And he had just won in his last fight. He just won the European IBF strap in his very last fight against Luke Watkins. All right. Who is like these guys, solid fighters. Last couple fights were against solid fighters. But for the most part, he's fought a bunch of journeymen that really didn't belong in the ring with him, and he's knocked them all out very, very early in the fight, all right? And doesn't have much experience in facing southpaws. I had to go back to a fight in 2019 in order to see him fight a southpaw, and the guy was basically, his record is 16 wins with 51 losses and 3 draws. So me watching that fight, I was able to find that fight. And me watching it, I realized that Jordan has improved dramatically since that fight from what I was watching there. So he doesn't have much going on when it comes to southpaws. Yes, he has sparring experience with Alexander Usyk, guys like Tyson Fury. So he's sparred some of the elite fighters in the world. But as far as professional fights, he turned pro in 2015. Same thing as Jai Opetaia. Same thing, both of them 2015. But Jai has had more fights. Jai is 22 wins, 17 knockouts and no losses himself. But Jai's actually obviously has been a lot more active, and he's fought the better fighters in my opinion. All right. So like I said, when I look at Jordan Thompson, very big fighter, very tall guy, very big, tall, powerful fighter. I still feel that when I watch his most recent fights, it looks like he's still experimenting with things. You know what I mean? And when I say that, if you look at the fight against Ducar and you look at the fight with Watkins, when you look at Ducar, where he was dropped in the final round, right? I mean, in the last closing seconds of the final round, he was getting ambushed by Ducar, and he went down at the final bell, and he was saved by the bell. Right? He was badly hurt, and when I look at that fight, that was a fight where he was trying to control distance and fight a rangy fight. And to be honest, I don't feel like he was doing the greatest job at doing that, especially against a journeyman like Ducar. So I thought that in that fight there, he was trying to move, trying to keep the distance, trying to keep that lead hand and measure from the outside. But then when I see the Luke Watkins fight against a guy that was much smaller than him, that wasn't really a powerful puncher, But was a better defender. You know, I thought he had good. You know, was kind of like a slick type of fighter. I felt that in that fight, from what I was seeing, it looked like Jordan Thompson was more trying to use that Philly shell, trying to close the distance, throwing short counters and stuff on the inside, you know, rolling punches, but he was getting hit a lot. And it didn't seem like it seemed like he was experimenting. I know it was a European title match, but it seemed like he was still experimenting. It was a completely different style from what we saw in the Ducar fight. So I just believe that Jordan, who doesn't have much experience, is still learning. You know what I mean? He's a very tough fighter. He can fight, he can punch, he can definitely do, there's things that he do well. Like I think he goes, his body punches are on point. But I feel like those punches that were landing is when the fighters were standing right in front of him. You know, guys with a little bit more movement, like Jai Opetaia. Jai is a more of a mover. You know, it's going to be much difficult to land those punches without worried about getting countered. You know, so I think he goes to the body well. I think he's decent at controlling range and measuring his opponents. You know, I think he has. I see him use a lot of things like head control against his opponent with using that lead hand. But I don't see any consistency in the way that he fights. Every time I see him fight, and I've seen him before, but I never actually like analyzed him before. So now that I'm actually studying him, I don't see any consistency in anything that he does. So it makes it very difficult for me to decide on him or pick him to win the fight when I don't know exactly what he's going to bring, because he's still experimenting on things. And I can't say, you can make an argument that he is versatile, but I haven't seen him do anything that was, you know, whether he fought a rangy fight or a close range fight, I didn't see him do anything like that great, you know? And you got Jai, on the other hand, who just won against Marius Briedis. And I don't believe that Briedis is in his prime. I don't think he was in his prime in that fight. All right. Just going back and watching that fight and seeing Briedis in the Usyk fight, for example, that was years ago now. You can just see that there's a difference in him. And he was still strong. He's still powerful. He's still very good. Yes, he won the second World Boxing Super Series against Dorticos and everything. So he's still a good fighter, and he's still a top tier fighter. But I do think he's past his prime. The punch output was lower than what I've seen in the past, you know, and he seemed to just be outworked. You know, the timing just seemed to be off. And I want to give Jai credit for that, because Jai was doing everything right. You know, I mean, Jai being a southpaw, you know, is moving well, feinting a lot, you know, making it difficult to time. And he would pop that jab, shoot that straight left, you know, and create some angles with those uppercuts as well. He was landing some really good shots. He was able to break Briedis' nose earlier in that fight. Briedis was bleeding all fight long. And I think he landed an uppercut in that fight. But then he took an uppercut himself, which broke his jaw in the 10th round in that fight. And it's the fact that I can see him get his jaw broken and still finish the fight the way that he did. It makes me know that he's a top tier type of fighter. You know, a lot of fighters get their jaw broken or any other kind of injury, and they're not able to continue. Obviously, Breed has been there. But Jai showed and proved that he's actually an elite fighter. He's just not a title holder. You know what I mean? Whereas Jordan Thompson, I'm still not sure. You know, now the key to this fight, and being that Jordan, for you gamblers out there, Jordan might be a live dog. You can think he is, because he is very, very big. You know, he's big. He's powerful. He has a puncher's chance. And like I said, I think the one key thing that separates the two of them is that I think that Jordan goes to the body well. So you can't sleep on him, and you can't sleep on his size and his power. All right. I don't think he's as skilled as Jai. I don't think he's a better athlete than Jai. I think he is not as experienced as Jai as well. You know, I think Jai is just more, he moves more natural. He looks more like he is a more experienced. Even as an amateur, he's a former Olympian, and, you know, he just looks more fluid. The way he moves, the way he throws his punches and setups and counters, he just looks like a seasoned fighter as opposed to Jordan. When I watched the two back to back, it looked like Jai is just more seasoned, and it's pretty much the reason why he's the favorite to win. You know, he's much smaller, obviously, but he's much more skilled, in my opinion. So it makes sense for me to pick Jai. I think Jai, if I have to pick a winner to you guys, I will have to go with Jai because he's just a better boxer than me. He's smaller, but he's a better boxer. And I normally go with a guy that is more skilled. And I think he's much more skilled, you know, and he's more experienced than Jordan Thompson. But if you guys want to put a little bit money on Jordan, go for it. He's a big guy. He's a big fighter. And, you know, I don't know what his approach is going to be. I think he should try to control distance. I don't like the way he fought Watkins. You know, I think there are points in a fight where he can change and make adjustments and close the gap a little bit and work on the inside a little bit more, go to the body a little bit more. But I don't think that style is the way he should fight coming out the gate. The Philly shell, he's just not good enough at it yet to fight on a championship level that way. I prefer him to fight using distance, you know, keeping that lead hand out there, setting up the right hand, setting up the uppercuts. You know what I mean? He's good at guys that like to lean in and timing that uppercut. He can do some things well. He do have some angles. He's versatile, but I don't never see any consistency in his game for me to really be sure of what I'm getting from him in this fight. You know, especially because you're coming off two of your best opponents who weren't really that good, and you got knocked down and saved by the bell in one of those fights. So I have to go with Jai. He's been in there tougher to me. I think he's the more skilled between the two, and I think I don't know how he's gonna win. I'm not even picking a knockout or a decision win because, you know, even though Jordan was dropped in a recent fight, you know, I just don't know if I can't go and say he's just a chinny dude, you know, because again, he looks like a fighter that is still experimenting on where he wants to be. And with that being said, I cannot pick a guy like that to win at this point. If he is to win this fight, then we can talk later. But right now, I know what Jai can do, and I'm predicting him to win this one. Okay, not specifically from decision or knockout, but I think Jai is going to win the fight Saturday, and I will be covering the fight live. Probably not the entire card, but I will be covering this fight for sure Saturday. So be here on Saturday. Check in on Saturday. Again, subscribe to the channel, smash the like button, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.